began to flutter closed, and she emptied her mind save for the thoughts of faraway lands and lost familial ties. Something, perhaps the moonlight, sparkled in the pictures above her. A small light that glowed in the tower of the castle appeared to be brighter in the picture. But she squinted at it and then chalked it up to fatigue and weary eyes. Her lashes battered against her cheeks one last time, and she fell into a deep, sound sleep. Candles surrounded her in a circle, hollowing the circular room with an ethereal glow. Long, thin tapers of white sheep's fat burned low and lit the gloom of the dark tower. She had been locked in there for so long, she had lost track of time. There was a straw mattress in a splintered bed of ashwood. Thin blankets cast across it was worn and frayed at the edges. A small wooden chair, equally as uncomfortable, sat at the base of the bed. It wobbled on 3 legs, having relinquished one of the legs long ago for the usage of a handle for a torch. The torch had long ago burnt to ash and was scattered and lost amongst the dust and dirt that caked the cold stone floor. She rocked back on her heels and murmured a soft prayer to the gods, the spirits, anyone who would listen. The tower was a prison, a tortuous place that seeped into the soul like the smoky blackness of a demon, coming from the bowels of hell to inhabit and ingest the goodness of a person's humanity. There were bones in the ashes, and they cried out to her, begging her to release them from their captivity. She couldn't help them that night. They would remain tended there until the angels came for them on the day of reckoning. Thunder clapped outside the castle and lit up the tiny room in an intense light that threw the stark furnishings of the room into harsh contrast. The candles flickered, and she feared they would blow out. Cotswold Castle had many frivolities. Protection from the elements in the prison tower was not one of them. Rain lashed against the stone tower and splayed into the room in droves of unending dampness. It rained often in Scotland. She hadn't been dry since she was thrown into that room. The water collected in puddles at the base of the windows. She sat in the middle of the room in an attempt to keep herself and her activities dry. She knelt over a carnelian kilt pin. It glowed in the candlelight like fire. She reached out her hand and touched it as she murmured. The contact sent a spiral of heat through her fingertips, and she jerked her hand back. How could the stone set in silver be warm to the touch? There was no fire there. The brooch had not been warmed against the constant contact with her skin, as she had been shivering since she arrived there. The cold was such that it seeped not only into her bones, but into her very soul. There was no possible way the stone could be warm. Her eyes fixed on the glowing centre of the gem as she continued to murmur, "Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, through spans of time I cannot rest. Seek thee, my kin, and pardon my sin, that I may reincarnate and new life begin. And with this pen I shall be returned to my love, cast through the ages by touch of mine blood, light from the sun up above." The kilt pin glowed ever brighter in the hue of burnt orange that lit up not only the room, but blazed like the dawning of the early morning sun, sending spirals of light from the tower window. She heard shouts from below and quickly loosened the stone nearest the door, about halfway up the wall. She hid the pin behind the stone, where someone had hollowed out the stone behind that, and replaced the stone so that it looked seamless. She prayed that someone would find it some day, and that she might rise up, released from the ashes of the debris of bodies around that hellish place. She heard footsteps on the stairs, and boots clunked up the stone steps. She hurriedly pushed the stone back in place and managed to take a step back as the door was thrown open, and she screamed in terror as Audrina woke, sitting bolt upright in bed. "What the hell?" she muttered as she glanced up at the pictures. What the heck was that? She wondered to herself as she let her tired body fall back against the pillows. She stared at her pictures